Noise follows modern life everywhere. Screens glow before sunrise. Notifications interrupt meals, conversations, and sleep. Cities hum endlessly with engines, advertisements, music, alarms, and hurried voices. Even moments of rest are crowded by scrolling feeds and racing thoughts. Humanity has become surrounded by information, yet starved of reflection. In this restless environment, ancient poetry feels less like old literature and more like medicine. Across centuries, poets from distant civilizations understood something modern culture often forgets. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space. Silence is clarity. Silence is where human beings finally hear themselves again. Ancient societies valued silence differently from the modern world. Silence was not awkward or wasted. It carried spiritual, emotional, and intellectual meaning. In temples, forests, deserts, monasteries, and mountain paths, silence allowed people to observe existence more deeply. Ancient poets transformed that stillness into words that continue speaking today. Their poems were never designed for endless consumption. They invited readers to pause, breathe, and notice the hidden rhythm beneath ordinary life. The Chinese philosopher Laozi expressed this wisdom with remarkable simplicity. He wrote, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." The line feels almost rebellious in the modern age. Today, productivity is treated like identity. People rush constantly, believing speed alone creates value. Yet rivers shape mountains slowly. Seasons change without panic. Trees grow quietly for decades before reaching full height. Laozi understood that life unfolds naturally when human beings stop fighting every moment. Silence becomes powerful because it reconnects people with patience. Ancient Japanese poetry also embraced stillness with extraordinary beauty. Matsuo Basho captured entire emotional landscapes through small observations. His famous haiku reads, "An old silent pond, a frog jumps into the pond, splash, silence again." The poem lasts only seconds, yet it opens an entire world. Basho does not describe dramatic events or heroic victories. Instead, he notices stillness itself. The brief sound of water becomes meaningful because silence surrounds it. In an overstimulated world, the poem feels almost radical. It reminds readers that attention gives ordinary moments their depth. Silence also appears throughout ancient spiritual traditions. Buddhist teachings encouraged meditation not as escape, but as awareness. The goal was never to destroy thought completely. Instead, silence allowed people to observe thoughts without becoming imprisoned by them. Ancient Indian texts like the Upanishads explored the idea that truth often emerges beyond language. Words can guide understanding, but silence reveals deeper realities words cannot fully contain. The Persian poet Rumi carried similar wisdom through mystical poetry. He once wrote, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Whether interpreted spiritually or emotionally, the line speaks to modern exhaustion. Endless opinions flood digital spaces every hour. Everyone reacts instantly. Everyone speaks. Yet very few people truly listen. Rumi suggests that silence itself contains meaning richer than constant noise. Stillness becomes a doorway into reflection, compassion, and connection. Ancient Greek thinkers also respected silence as part of wisdom. Socrates believed thoughtful questioning mattered more than loud certainty. Greek tragedies often showed characters destroyed by arrogance because they refused to listen carefully to others or themselves. Silence created room for humility. It interrupted impulsive reactions and allowed deeper understanding to emerge slowly. Even ancient deserts became symbols of silence and transformation. Early spiritual seekers traveled into isolated landscapes because quiet stripped away distraction. Without crowds or entertainment, individuals confronted fear, longing, memory, and desire directly. Many ancient poems born from desert traditions carry a haunting simplicity. They understand that silence can feel uncomfortable before it becomes peaceful. Modern society often avoids silence precisely because silence reveals hidden emotions people spend entire lives trying to outrun. This fear explains why overstimulation has become so addictive. Constant entertainment prevents reflection. Endless scrolling fills every empty second. Music plays during travel. Videos play during meals. Messages arrive endlessly. Many people no longer experience uninterrupted silence at all. Yet ancient wisdom repeatedly warns that a mind without stillness loses balance. Without silence, thoughts become crowded and emotions remain unresolved. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius understood this struggle long before smartphones existed. In his private writings, he reminded himself to remain calm despite political chaos and personal stress. He believed inner peace came from disciplined attention rather than external control. His reflections feel surprisingly modern because they recognize a timeless truth. External noise never fully disappears. Peace must be cultivated internally. Ancient poetry offers that cultivation gently. Poems slow readers down. Unlike rapid online content, ancient verses often require patience and contemplation. Their power unfolds gradually. A single image or metaphor can linger in memory for years. This slowness matters deeply today because overstimulation trains the brain to consume quickly without absorbing meaning. Ancient poems resist that speed. They ask readers not merely to glance, but to dwell. Nature remains central within many ancient poems because natural rhythms oppose artificial urgency. Chinese mountain poets described mist drifting through valleys. Arabic poets listened to desert winds beneath stars. Indigenous oral traditions honored rivers, forests, and animals as living presences connected to humanity itself. These traditions remind modern audiences that silence exists naturally in the world. Though modern civilization often buries it beneath machinery and distraction, silence also strengthens emotional awareness. Ancient poems frequently explore grief, longing, aging, and mortality with calm honesty. They do not rush to erase sadness with shallow positivity. Instead, they sit beside pain quietly. Hebrew psalms cry openly in sorrow. Greek tragedies allow suffering to unfold without easy solutions. Japanese death poems face mortality with startling serenity. Ancient wisdom understood that silence allows emotions to breathe instead of becoming suppressed beneath constant stimulation. One reason ancient poems survive across centuries is because they create space rather than overload. Modern communication often overwhelms audiences with explanation. Ancient poetry trusted implication. A few carefully chosen words could suggest entire emotional universes. Readers became participants instead of passive consumers. Silence existed between the lines, allowing imagination and reflection to complete the experience. This relationship between silence and imagination feels increasingly important today. Overstimulated environments leave little room for inward thought. Algorithms constantly predict attention before curiosity can develop naturally. Ancient poetry moves differently. It invites wandering rather than addiction. It encourages contemplation rather than reaction. Silence, however, does not mean isolation from humanity. Ancient wisdom rarely promoted complete withdrawal from life. Instead, silence created balance. Poets and philosophers understood that human beings need both connection and solitude. Without solitude, identity becomes shaped entirely by external voices. Without connection, silence becomes loneliness. Ancient traditions searched for harmony between inner stillness and meaningful participation in the world. The poetry of silence also teaches humility. Mountains existed before empires, oceans moved before languages formed, stars shone before human ambition emerged. Ancient poets often use silence to remind readers of their small yet meaningful place within existence. This perspective can feel comforting rather than frightening. Modern overstimulation frequently centers the self constantly. Ancient wisdom gently redirects attention outward toward nature, community, and timeless reality. Perhaps this explains why people continue returning to ancient poems during periods of anxiety and uncertainty. The poems offer calm without pretending life is simple. They acknowledge suffering while still protecting beauty. They slow perception enough for readers to notice forgotten details: rain against stone, wind through trees, footsteps echoing at dawn, moonlight resting over quiet water. These images create emotional breathing room. Silence itself becomes poetic because it cannot be fully captured. Every ancient poem about stillness ultimately points beyond language. The pauses matter as much as the words. In music, silence creates rhythm. In poetry, silence creates depth. In life, silence creates awareness. Today, many people fear silence because silence interrupts distraction. Sitting quietly, even for a few minutes, can feel uncomfortable. Thoughts surface immediately. Restlessness appears. Ancient wisdom suggests this discomfort is not failure. It is the beginning of attention. Beneath noise, the human mind slowly remembers how to observe again. The ancient poets understood that wisdom rarely arrives shouting. It arrives softly, almost unnoticed. A still morning, a distant bird call, wind crossing empty fields, a lantern flickering beside handwritten verses. These moments seem small, yet they reconnect people with presence itself. In an overstimulated world, the poetry of silence becomes more than artistic tradition. It becomes resistance. It refuses constant urgency. It protects reflection from distraction. It reminds humanity that meaning cannot always be accelerated, purchased, or streamed instantly. Ancient silence also reshapes relationships. Conversations become richer when people stop preparing responses while others speak. Ancient teachers repeatedly emphasized listening as a form of respect. Indigenous elders often shared wisdom through pauses, allowing listeners to absorb meaning gradually rather than chasing immediate conclusions. In many traditions, silence during conversation was not considered emptiness or weakness. It represented care, patience, and attention. Modern communication often rewards speed instead. Quick reactions gain visibility, while thoughtful reflection disappears beneath constant updates. Ancient poetry quietly challenges this pattern by valuing depth over immediacy. There is also physical wisdom hidden inside silence. Ancient healers understood that overstimulation exhausts both mind and body. Time spent beside rivers, gardens, mountains, or quiet temples restored emotional balance. Today, scientific research increasingly supports what ancient traditions sensed intuitively. Human beings require moments of mental stillness to think clearly and recover emotionally. Silence lowers tension, slows perception, and creates room for memory, creativity, and insight. The old poets did not need laboratories to recognize this truth. They simply paid attention carefully. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson ancient poems offer modern readers. Silence is not something to fear or escape. It is something to practice. Within silence, people rediscover forgotten parts of themselves buried beneath noise, distraction, ambition, and endless movement. Quietness becomes a form of return rather than absence. The old poets still whisper across centuries. Their words survive because they offer something increasingly rare: stillness without emptiness, calm without numbness, depth without noise. They teach that silence is not the absence of life. Silence is where life finally becomes visible again. If this reflection brought you a moment of peace, share your favorite ancient poem or quiet thought in the comments, like the piece, and subscribe for more journeys through timeless wisdom, forgotten literature, and the calm voices history still carries today.